There is a feeling you have been carrying for most of your life, and you have never once said it out loud. It is the feeling that something is missing. You cannot name what. That is the strange part. If something were clearly missing, a person, a place, an amount of money, you could point at it and chase it. But this is different. This is a hollow place that sits somewhere behind the ribs, and it has been there through the good years and the bad ones. It was there at the wedding. It was there when the children were born, quieter maybe, but there. It was there on the vacations. It was there after the promotion, after the new house, after the retirement party. Every time you reached something you had been chasing, there was a moment, sometimes a day, sometimes only an hour, when you stood inside the thing you had wanted for years and felt the hollow place still hollow. And you did what everyone does. You picked a new thing to chase, because chasing quiets the feeling better than arriving does. And now you are past 60, and most of the chases are finished, and the feeling is still there. Fuller life behind you than most people ever get. And still, in the quiet moments, something is missing. Today I am going to tell you what it is, because my people had a name for this feeling and an understanding of it that the modern world has completely lost. And I want to tell you the most important thing right at the start, before anything else. The feeling is not a defect. The feeling is not ingratitude. The feeling is not depression, though the world will sell you pills for it. The feeling is a message. It is the truest compass you own, and you have spent your whole life reading it backwards. Let me tell you first what the missing thing is not. Because you have spent decades testing the wrong answers, and I want you to see the pattern of your own experiments. You thought it was the next achievement. It was not, because you achieved, and the hollow stayed. You thought it was love, and love came. Real love, maybe, and love is a great thing, but the hollow does not close for love, does it? You know that now, though you would never say it out loud, because it feels like a betrayal of the people you love. It is not a betrayal. The hollow was never theirs to fill. You thought it was things. The world worked very hard to convince you it was things, because your hollow is worth money to somebody. Every advertisement you have seen in 70 years was aimed directly at that empty place behind your ribs. Buy this and be whole. And you bought. We all bought. And the package would arrive. And there would be a small brightness for a day or a week, and then the hollow again, patient as ever, underneath the new thing. And late in life comes the last wrong answer, the most heartbreaking one. You thought it was the past. You decided the missing thing was back there, in the full house, in the busy years, in your stronger body, in the time when everyone was still alive. And so you began to live facing backwards, mourning toward the past, and the hollow did not close, because the hollow was there in the past too. You have simply forgotten. Go back honestly and you will remember, even in the golden years, in the loud kitchen, at the full table, there were nights you stood at the window after everyone slept and felt it. Something is missing. The past is not the answer either. Nothing you have ever pointed at was the answer. And that is not because the answer does not exist. It is because the hollow is not shaped like any of those things. I want to tell you about the man who taught me this without meaning to. He was a man from our region who left young and did everything right by the world's measure. Built a business, built a fortune, built the house on the hill, and I mean that exactly. You could see his house from the whole valley. And he came back home in his 60s, and one evening I ended up sitting with him at a gathering, and he had been drinking a little, enough for the truth, and he said something I have carried ever since. He said, "I need to tell you something I have never told anyone. The day I sold my company, the day the money landed, the biggest day of my whole life, the thing I had worked toward for 30 years. That night I sat alone in my house and I felt the exact same feeling I felt when I was 19, broke, sitting in my truck, wondering what was wrong with me. The exact same feeling. 30 years. Everything I set out to get, I got. And the feeling was sitting there waiting for me at the finish line, like it had ridden along the whole way. And then he looked at me and asked the question that every person eventually asks someone. What is it? What is the thing that is missing? He had crossed every finish line the world offers, and the hollow crossed every one of them with him. Hold that man in your mind as I tell you what my grandmother taught me, because her answer is the answer I wish I could have given him that night, and I did not yet have it. And before I give you her answer, I want to point out one more thing about that man, because it is a thing about you too. Notice that he said, I have never told anyone. A man in his 60s, surrounded his whole life by family, partners, employees, friends, and the deepest fact of his inner life had never once been spoken out loud. He had carried the hollow for 45 years in complete secrecy, and you have too. Think about it. Have you ever told anyone? Your spouse? Your closest friend? Your children? Has anyone on this earth ever heard you say the words, I feel like something is missing, and I do not know what it is? Almost certainly not. Because saying it feels dangerous. It feels ungrateful when your life is full of blessings other people would trade for. It feels like weakness when everyone believes you are the strong one. It feels like an insult to the people you love, as if they were not enough. And that is the last thing you would ever want them to hear. So the most persistent feeling of your entire inner life has lived in total isolation, unspoken, for decades. Millions of people sitting in their separate houses, all carrying the same secret hollow, all believing they are the only one. You are not the only one. You were never the only one. The feeling is nearly universal, and the silence around it is nearly universal, and that silence is part of why it has never healed. Remember that as we go on tonight, because at the end of this teaching, I am going to ask you to break that silence in one small way, and I want you to already understand why it matters. Before I share the next teaching, I need to tell you something. I am not going to be here forever, and most of what I know was never written anywhere. So I sat down and I wrote it, all of it. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. The ones about the hunger underneath all the other hungers. The ones about what actually fills a human being. The ones I have never said on camera. It is called The Native Way, and it costs less than one dinner you will not remember. Scan the code on your screen or look in the comments, but do not leave yet, because I am about to tell you what my grandmother said the hollow actually is, and in 50 years I have never found a wiser answer. My grandmother had a name for the hollow place. She called it the seat by the fire, and this is what she meant. She said, every person is born with a circle inside them, like the circle of a camp. And in that circle there are seats, and life fills the seats one by one. The seat of family, the seat of work, the seat of love, the seat of belonging to a people. Most people, she said, manage to fill most of their seats. But there is one seat that sits closest to the fire, at the very center of the circle, and it stays empty in almost everyone. And because it is the closest seat to the fire, its emptiness is felt more than all the others. A person can have every other seat filled, the family seat, the work seat, the love seat, and still feel the draft from that one empty place at the center. And the person looks around at their full circle and cannot understand it. Everything is here. Everyone is here. Why do I feel like someone is missing? And my grandmother would lean in when she told this part, and she would say, Someone is missing. You. You are the one who is not at the fire. The empty seat is yours. Let me tell you what that means because it took me 30 years to understand it. Think about how you have lived. From childhood, you were trained to attend to everything outside yourself. Please the parents, please the teachers, earn the grades, earn the wage, earn the approval. Then marriage, and you attended to the marriage. Children, and you attended to the children, as you should have. Work, and you attended to the work. Community, church, neighbors, aging parents, then grandchildren. 70 years of your attention, your care, your presence, all of it flowing outward, toward every seat in the circle except the center one. When did you ever sit with yourself? Not rest. Rest is just the body stopping. I mean, sit with yourself the way you would sit with a beloved friend, with attention, with curiosity, with kindness. When did you last ask yourself what you actually feel, what you actually want, what you actually believe, not what you were taught to believe, not what your role requires you to believe, but what the person underneath all the roles has come to know in 70 years of living? For most people, the honest answer is never. 70 years of hosting a gathering and never once taking your own seat at it. And the hollow behind your ribs, the something is missing that no achievement or purchase or person or memory could ever fill, is the draft coming off that one empty chair. Nothing outside you could fill it because it is not an outside-shaped hole. It is shaped exactly like you. It was always shaped like you. You are the missing thing. You have been the missing thing all along. And when I finally understood this, years after that night with the rich man, I understood his story completely. Why did the hollow ride with him across every finish line? Because he was not at any of those finish lines. Think about it. Who crossed them? The businessman crossed them. The achiever crossed them. The role crossed them. The roles collected the trophies, and the roles enjoyed them the way roles enjoy anything, which is briefly and hungrily, always needing the next one. And the man himself, the boy who used to sit in that truck at 19, the actual person underneath 50 years of performance, he was never invited to a single celebration. His roles went to every party. He stayed home. That is why arrival never worked, for him or for you. It was never you arriving. You cannot fill the hollow with achievements delivered to your roles, the same way you cannot feed a man by mailing food to his job. The food has to reach the person, and nothing had reached the person in decades, because the person had been sent away from the fire so long ago that even the roles forgot he existed. Now, I know how that lands. It sounds too simple and at the same time too strange. So let me make it practical, because the old way is always practical in the end. How does a person finally take their seat by the fire? I will give you 3 ways, and they are small, and do not let their smallness fool you. The first way is the sit. Every day, once a day, 10 minutes, you sit down with no task. No television, no phone, no chore waiting visibly in front of you. You sit the way you would sit with a friend you have missed, and the friend is you. And you ask inward, gently, the question nobody has asked you in decades. How are you? Really? And then you listen. The first days you will hear noise, lists, worries, the itch to get up. That is normal. That is 60 years of momentum. Stay seated. Under the noise, slowly, over days and weeks, something begins to answer. A feeling you had not admitted, a want you had buried, a grief you had postponed, an opinion that is actually yours. Do not rush it, and do not fear it. That voice is the person who has been waiting outside the circle their whole life. Every 10-minute sit tells them the seat is finally theirs. The second way is to ask your own questions before the world's questions. Here's what I mean. Your whole life, the day has started with the world's questions. What needs to be done? Who needs what from me? What am I behind on? Those questions ran your life, and they will fill every hour you give them until you die. So now, in the morning, before the world's questions, you ask one of yours. What would make today feel like mine? Not productive, not useful. Mine. Some days the answer will be tiny. The walk by the water instead of the errands first. The old music while you cook. Calling the friend who feeds you instead of the one who drains you. Honor the answer. Every time you honor it, you are telling the person at the fire, your wants exist, your wants matter. You are not just staff in your own life. And the hollow, hear me on this, the hollow shrinks a little every single time. Not because you did something grand, because the missing person attended their own day. And the third way is the deepest, and it is the one my grandmother would insist I not leave out. Tell somebody the truth about yourself. One person, one truth. Because part of why you are missing from your own fire is that nobody, in decades, has met the real you. They have met the role, the strong one, the capable one, the fine one, the one who is doing great, thanks for asking. And every time you perform the role, the real person gets sent away from the fire again. So find one safe person, one, and tell them one real thing. I have been feeling empty for years and I could not tell anyone. I am not as strong as everyone thinks. I do not miss the busy years as much as I say. I am afraid. I am hopeful. Whatever is true. The words matter less than the act, because the act says, the real one is allowed to exist now. And I have watched what happens to people when they do this, even once, even at 80. It is like watching someone come home after a long journey nobody knew they were on. And I want to finish the story of the rich man, because it has an ending, and the ending is the whole teaching. Years after that night at the gathering, after I had learned my grandmother's answer, I saw him again, and I told him what I had not been able to tell him before, the circle, the seats, the empty chair at the center. And he was quiet for a long time, this man who was never quiet, and then he did something I did not expect. He laughed. Not a happy laugh at first, the laugh of a man seeing the size of a joke that has been played on him for 50 years. And he said, I spent $30 million looking for a seat I already owned. And then, and this is the part I want you to hear, he actually did something about it. In his 70s. He started sitting, the way I will teach you tonight. He told his wife the truth about the emptiness after 40 years of hiding it. And he told me later that the conversation that he feared would wound her was the closest they had been in decades. Because it turned out, and you already know what I am about to say, she had her own hollow, her own secret, all those same years, in the same house, on the other side of the same bed. Two people, missing from their own lives, side by side, each protecting the other from a truth they shared. The last years of that man's life were, by his own account, the first years of it. Not because anything outside changed. Nothing outside changed. The person finally came to the fire. That is available to you. Tonight. It does not cost $30 million. It costs 10 minutes and one true sentence. So there it is. The feeling that something is missing was never a flaw in you and never a lie. It was the most honest part of you, sending the same message for 70 years, patient as water. It was never saying you failed. It was never saying your life was not enough. It was saying, there is one more person you were meant to love, one more seat you were meant to fill, and it is the one at the center, and I will not stop calling until you take it. Everything you built still stands. Everyone you love is still loved. Nothing is taken from them when you finally sit down at your own fire. In truth, they receive more, because a person who is present at their own center has more warmth to give, not less. My grandmother took her seat somewhere in her 40s, she told me, and she said every year after was richer than the 20 before it. Not because life got easier, it did not, but because she was finally there for it. It is not too late for you. The seat is not gone. The fire is not out. The circle has been holding your place all these years through everything, waiting with the patience of the earth itself. Go sit down. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way, 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, how long have you felt that something was missing? And did anything I said tonight name it for you? I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.